How we doing, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Richie Hicks Jr. Sports Podcast here on Facebook Live and YouTube. Oh my, Buffalo Bills yet again not able to conquer the monster that is Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. Sadly, the Bills fell short yet again in heartbreaking fashion, 32-29. I'm at a loss for words. I'm not a Bills fan, but I just said it on my socials. This reminds me so much of the heartache and the heartbreak that the New York Knicks constantly went through in the 90s, talking about Patrick Ewing never being able to get over the hump against the great Michael Jordan. It seems like Mahomes has that same kind of power in the NFL, as nobody is really eating on his watch unless your name is Joe Burrow. So taking it back to that game where the Bengals were eliminated due to not getting help, it kind of makes you really look at it. So much to speak on. The insomnia of John Mara has to be at an all-time high after seeing Saquon Barkley run wild to a Super Bowl berth with the hated Philadelphia Eagles. Lot to uncover here in a very eventful championship weekend. Philadelphia Eagles were just really incredible yesterday, pretty much doing anything that they wanted. And, kudos to Dan Campbell's young team. They're going to be around for a while. Definitely cannot hang your head after losing to a veteran team like the Eagles. I think it's safe to say the Commanders exceeded any and all expectations for year one of a new regime. And speaking of insomnia, I don't think Dan Snyder is sleeping all that well, looking at his former team move on in such a good way. I'll be back in just a moment. Enjoy this intro. All right, Richie Hicks Jr. Sports Podcast. Riding solo today. Let's get at it. Championship Sunday in the NFL, very eventful. We're getting a rematch, 2 of the last 3 years. It's going to be the Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles yet again. The first matchup a couple of seasons ago was marred by some controversy. A face mask that occurred on Jalen Hurts, which led to a defensive score, was not called. A James Bradbury holding penalty also caused a potential game-winning field goal. Well, it was potential. It was a game-winning field goal by Harrison Butker. It has been a big theme in the NFL that the Chiefs do get a ton of calls. Yesterday, I'm not going to put it on any kind of refereeing. The Chiefs were just a little better yesterday. And I say to myself, will Josh Allen be able to recover? Will the Bills be able to recover? It's a lot to put into season after season, trying to get to that goal of making it to a Super Bowl. And every year you have 31 teams that are disappointed. You have one that is at the pinnacle, and on that mountain, on that pinnacle for quite some time now, it has been Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, Steve Spagnuolo, that dynamic trio that run the Kansas City Chiefs on the field, 2 coaches and the quarterback. Champions find ways to win, and that is exactly what the Kansas City Chiefs did yesterday. I thought the Bills put it all out there. I thought they left it all out there. When you look at Josh Allen's playoffs this year, I thought he was sensational. You can't do much more than what he did. But when you think about moving forward, what the Bills need, I'm not quite sure at this point. I guess you just need not to run into the Chiefs anymore. Certain players and certain teams have certain teams' numbers. That's why I made the reference to the New York Knicks and the Chicago Bulls of the 90s. Many people in and around the NBA felt that if the Knicks team played in any other era, they likely have multiple championships. A lot could be said about the 90s Bills team, which went to 4 consecutive Super Bowls. That never happened in league history prior to the 90s, what the Bills did, although not winning an actual Lombardi trophy. That was an accomplishment that no one has done before or since. I can't even put into words what they have to be going through right now as professionals looking to get to the next step. And sometimes when things like this happen, it makes you wonder if they have to go in a different direction, maybe at the head coaching position. And by no means do I think Sean McDermott is not a good head coach. By no means do I feel that he's done anything to be removed. But when you keep getting this close and you cannot get over that proverbial hump, one has to say, what are we going to change? You're obviously not going to change the quarterback. You have a hell of a roster. I think this particular year, the pressure was a little bit off the Bills because of the fact that they lost a big name player in Stephon Diggs. And I think this is some of the best football Josh Allen has ever played in his career. The James Cook touchdown was just phenomenal effort. You're talking a 4th down play, season on the line, was able to keep his body off the ground and get that football over the plane, regardless of the result of the game. That's a play that's going to be looked at over the years as one of the finer pressure-packed playoff plays of all time. But, coaching matters. Having a quarterback with ice in his vein matters. And Patrick Mahomes, with the exception of when he kind of runs into Joe Burrow, and formerly when Tom Brady was running around in the NFL, Patrick Mahomes just doesn't lose. He doesn't. And, similar to the Patriot dynasty, that kind of had two parts, 2 different parts. They won 3 early in the dynasty. They won 3 later in the dynasty. But for the better part of 20 years, Bill Belichick, Tom Brady, Robert Kraft running the show up top, ran the NFL. The New York Giants had their number in the big game. Philadelphia was able to split with them in the big game. And they had a couple of hiccups against teams like the New York Jets and teams that Peyton Manning was on. Peyton Manning, one of the few that has 3 wins over an opposing quarterback in the postseason. That's another thing that happened yesterday with Patrick Mahomes defeating Josh Allen for the 4th time in the postseason. That is a record. And it's crazy because Josh Allen has Patrick's number in the regular season. But in the playoffs, it's been a different story. And I think the thing that is so hard to swallow if you're a Bills fan is that it's not like you've ever been smoked. It's not like you ever got ran off the field. These are always the quintessential heartbreaking value of these kind of losses. I will say this, Taylor Swift, obviously beloved by her fans. And I think in some metrics, certain pockets of NFL fans. And, unless you're living under a rock, she's pretty serious with one of the best tight ends to ever do it in Mr. Travis Kelce. But I want to talk about this for a minute. Yesterday, Travis Kelce and Damar Hamlin kind of got into it. And I don't really think it was all that cool. Anybody that played this game at any level, there is no big time glory in going after a smaller guy. What led to this was Patrick Mahomes was going in for a score. Damar Hamlin was kind of holding on for dear life. And, he put a little oomph on, the ultimate tackle that, was ultimately a touchdown. Mahomes got a little irritated through the ball. Kelsey comes in to play enforcer until some of the bigger Bills players came in to check Travis Kelsey. We've seen it at different junctures. And, it's a hard thing to turn on and off when you're a football player. You have a certain level of crazy that you bring onto the field to get your edge, so to speak. But I'm sorry, man. DeMar Hamlin, that's the guy that you're going after. Guy that cheated death. Guy that cheated death a couple of years ago on the football field. Not a good look, Travis. Not a good look. As the game goes next week, of course, we're going to roll out our prediction show a little later. It's going to be a phenomenal game. I mean, you have, in my opinion, the creme de la creme of defensive coordinators in Steve Spagnuolo. This is a guy that shut down the legendary 2007 Patriots offense in the most improbable Super Bowl win ever, when the Giants defeated the Patriots 17-14 in the 2007 season. We've seen this man make on-the-fly adjustments time and time again against some of the league's best quarterbacks to win a lot of these games. The Chiefs' defense always seems to arrive when it matters most. And, they have a spectacular receiving room. When you bring in the talent that they've brought in, former alpha dog wide receiver ones that are now role guys for the bigger picture of winning the Super Bowl. And when you have a talent like a Travis Kelsey, who, yes, indeed, has been slowing down, but still, a premier tight end in this league, it's just tough to beat them during the course of a 3-hour game. Coaching matters. And, Andy Reid and Steve Spagnuolo, more than likely the best duo in today's NFL. Nick Sirianni has his fair share of great coaches as well. And they have a great roster. Last year going into the Super Bowl, I think that most people felt that the 49ers were the more talented roster. The Chiefs were vulnerable last year, but still found a way to do it the hard way, doing it on the road, getting to the big game, and ultimately outlasting the Niners in overtime. Only the second overtime Super Bowl ever, and Kyle Shanahan was involved in both debacles. Saquon Barkley, probably this year's MVP in my eyes. He's not going to get the nod over a quarterback because that's just the way that things shake out. Shouts out to my man Mike Zappi making a really good point, saying that too many brotherly shoves may have led to Saquon ultimately not going to win this thing. But, Saquon, how's that pick right there, John Mara? How you doing with your sleep? The infamous verbiage of John Mara talking about how he would not sleep well if Saquon were to put on the Kelly Green. Philadelphia Eagles crush out the Washington Commanders 55-23. From a rushing variable, I don't think I have seen this kind of dominance in an NFC title game probably since the Raheem Mostert game as a member of the 49ers against the Green Bay Packers back in 2019. They ultimately lost to the Chiefs. But this was the kind of game where Washington's biggest weakness was thoroughly exposed. They have struggled all year against the run, against lesser running backs and against lesser offenses. Can't say that I'm surprised with the way that this played out. But on a positive note for the losing team, probable rookie of the year, Jaden Daniels for the offensive side of things. They have a defensive one as well. So much to look forward to with that young man. But from a roster-based standpoint, I think the Commanders have to go all out and fortify that front seven a little more, particularly against the run. So in the draft, as well as in free agency, they're going to be in the market to look for some run stoppers. And this draft has quite a few good ones. You could go to the University of Michigan and have your pick of quite a few there. There are many other colleges that are offering some great defensive tackles. Also some more help in covering tight ends, covering wide receivers. There's plenty of defensive help in this draft where I think the Commanders could really shore up that team. You saw the Lions in this past draft make logical attempts to fix their secondary. Ultimately, the injuries bit them. Payne not playing yesterday definitely hurt the Commanders, but the best team won here. The Philadelphia Eagles for years, and this year, even more of a statement without future Hall of Famer Jason Kelsey, who retired, just the premier offensive line in the NFL. I mean, Saquon Barkley is sensational, but truth be told, if Barkley were to be injured, I feel that they could get it done with Gainwell and Shipley. But this is insane, man. You're talking 7 rushing touchdowns, 3 by the quarterback, 3 by the running back. Saquon had 3 trips to the end zone on 118 yards. And while I have long been an advocate for not drafting running backs early and also not overpaying running backs because of the fact that they have a short life expectancy in the NFL, the reason why this one sucks so much is not because they didn't bring back Saquon, not because he even signed with the rivals, because they allocated their money in the wrong direction. If the New York Football Giants would have just simply picked up the 5th-year option on Daniel Jones when the new regime came in, I don't think any of this even happens. It took a lot for this to happen. But, I do think that he was properly replaced in part because, Saquon cannot be replaced just by one man. I think Tyrone Tracy did a really nice job, but I do think the New York Football Giants need to be in the market for yet another running back coming out of this draft class. And this particular draft class is very deep at running back. So I do believe the Giants will pair Tracy with someone. Taking into consideration, Tracy was a wide receiver in college. I think he did a hell of a job this year. Devin Singletary, I would like to see get traded. Definitely could be a helpful piece to a contender. He has been buried since the ascension of Tracy. So it's kind of a waste of time, in my opinion, to even keep Singletary on the roster. So I'd like to see him move along and, seeing somebody else rock 26 so quickly that's not on the same kind of stratosphere as the guy in Philly. It's also a little annoying. But then again, Jalen Hyatt certainly isn't Odell Beckham Jr. either. I mean, shit, he ain't even Kurt Warner in the Giants uniform. Eagles Chiefs going to be a hell of a game. I will say this. I think the Eagles have a better chance than they did last time. I think you can make a logical argument that the Eagles have the better roster. But this is going to be a game that is going to be dominated in the trenches. But, do I trust Hurts more than I trust Patrick Mahomes? Absolutely not. You hear all these dogs barking in the neighborhood. I'm like, should I drop a Michael Vick reference? I'm just playing. No. I trust Patrick Mahomes, man. Every time that I consider going against the Chiefs, they win. After, just thinking about law of averages and, I really thought this was Buffalo's time. I don't have an answer for what the Bills have to do. As the Commanders go, I already said it. Fix some of your defensive weaknesses. You're going to continue to be back. And as Hurts goes, I still think he has to develop as a quarterback. I think that when you have the blessing of having the great offensive line that you do, and you have the best running back in the NFL currently in Saquon Barkley, it can cover a lot of your weaknesses. I think Hurts is a good leader, but I think he still has to grow as a quarterback. So I guess it's I'm just going to say it. I think the Chiefs are probably going to three-peat. And they're getting that hatred on the level of the New England Patriots. And I'm coming to the conclusion that the NFL really loves that stuff. When you have a world fan base that, regardless of who you root for, that tunes in just to root against the Chiefs, that's really good for your product. You take a guy like a Floyd Money Mayweather when he was fighting. You either loved him or you hated him. And a lot of people did not care for Floyd, but people always bought his pay-per-views and tuned in because you wanted to see somebody finally beat him. It's that whole evil empire kind of thing. Depending on name your era of dominance, whether it was the 49ers in the 80s, Cowboys in the 90s, Patriots in the 2000s up to the beginning of the 2020s. Now the Chiefs. Dynasties are great if you are a member of the fan base or obviously a player. But for the rest of the league, you are hated. And the NFL loves that. Absolutely loves that. It's great for their product. But, make no mistake, whether they get help from the officials or not, that also comes with the territory of being a constant winner. The Kansas City Chiefs are a damn good football team. I got to say it, man. Can't really fault Josh Allen for a lot of this. And can't really fault the kid Daniels either. I thought Daniels showed a lot of moxie yesterday. That fourth quarter, the Eagles just wanted to overdrive and put it away. But this is going to be a phenomenal game. Star-studded. Both these teams have a shit ton of Pro Bowlers. It's going to be a lot of fun. And we're going to do a detailed Super Bowl preview coming up probably just after Pro Bowl week. And this is an interesting week to kind of do other shows, being that the NFL is going to be on a bit of a pause because, as all of you know, the Pro Bowl is not even remotely what it used to be. Daniel Nunez, I didn't forget about you, bro. Hope you're feeling better, bro. I know you said you were really sick yesterday. You can feel it. I don't know, man. We'll see. Mom Dukes, I hope Mara never sleeps again. Nunez, I hate this. I'm going to keep it a buck, dude. I hate this because it goes without saying that I don't like your team, and that's an understatement. And it's normal. We're the second oldest rivalry in football, 1933 to forever. Eagles and Giants hate each other. We know this. But I also don't like the Chiefs, and I don't like dynasties. I wanted someone to be in the Super Bowl that I could root for. The last time I felt this strongly about something like this was when you won your lone Super Bowl, when Tom Brady and co played you guys. Because while I don't have like that hatred for the Patriots because we always had their number in the big game, they're still a Boston team. I don't like the Bruins. I don't like the Celtics. I respect them. I don't like them. But I'm a New York fan. I'm a Yankee fan. I ain't rooting for no Boston team. But at the same time, I wasn't rooting for you either. So I said, let's just let it play out and see what happens. And it was a terrible 3 hours that I had to endure watching two franchises that I didn't want to see win. And truth be told, this is a similar situation. But Mr. Nunez, all I'm going to say is this. If you think I'm going to root for the Philadelphia Eagles under any circumstance, regardless, it ain't happening. But I will say this. I love the game of football, and I'm going to tune in because it's going to be a hell of a football game. I try to call it down the middle. Philadelphia Eagles have a great team right now, and you reopened your window to win a Super Bowl because last season, after running out of juice, Giants kind of whipped you in the Meadowlands, and then you died in Tampa. The Eagles needed to make a big splash via free agency, via the draft, and they did that. Make no mistake about it, Howie Roseman is the best GM in all of football. And I hate saying it, but it's the truth. And I'm not going to lie to people on here just because I don't like your team, but it's going to be a hell of a Super Bowl. I will have to choose the lesser of two evils for the Super Bowl. I don't even know if that exists, Ma. I don't even know if that exists. But Nunez, hope you're feeling better, bro. I'm sure that this victory helps a little. And we're going to be doing some detailed coverage over the course of the next week and a half leading up to the big game, as well as some other drop-ins and a few other things we got cooking. Until next time, I am Richie, Bills Mafia. I'm sorry. That's all I could say. I respect you guys. You guys have a great, great fan base. And it goes without saying that they're going to come just as hard and just as loud as next year. A couple of side notes before I get out of here. I do kind of wonder how Jason Kelce feels. Now, I know he's enjoying his retirement. They have that really cool podcast. He's doing his thing. But I got to think that the opportunity to get even with your brother on some level has to elude him a little. Now, of course, he's not going to come out of nowhere and just, sign for a week with the Eagles because it doesn't work like that. You're out of football shape. You get smaller, and there's a reason why he retired. He went through the NFL wars. But it's got to suck to a level to not be able to get that one even with your brother. And I imagine being the competitor that he is, it's got to be on his mind a little. The other one that kind of hurts me from the human level and just being a football fan as long as I have been, I feel for 99-year-old Marv Levy, one of the greatest coaches in the history of this game to not win a Super Bowl. And he will have to hang around one more year and hopefully see his 100th birthday to have another chance to see if his beloved Buffalo Bills, who he led to 4 consecutive AFC championships, can finally win the big one. Marv Levy, just one of the great people in all of professional football. You know, my team beat them by a single point way back in Super Bowl 25 that led to 3 more defeats that were not nearly as competitive. And, the Buffalo Bills have the same color scheme, and they kind of have the same narrative as the lovable losers that the Chicago Cubs were until they finally got over the hump. And even you, Nunez, I'm sure on a level you could relate to this, being that the Eagles, their championships were so spaced out. You beat Vince Lombardi in a title game pre-merger, and then Nick Foles brought it home for you guys in place of an injured Carson Wentz. But now the Eagles have been one of the better teams for the better part of a decade and a half. Andy Reid brought them a lot of reputability. He wasn't able to win the big one. Doug Peterson was. He kind of flamed out. And now you got Nick Sirianni running the show. But on the back of the best running back in professional football, you guys have more than a chance. Last year, Christian McCaffrey was that guy, and they were close but not able to seal it. It's awfully hard to beat a team twice in the Super Bowl, especially when the players are similar. The Chiefs already did it against the 49ers, and we will find out if they could do it another time against the Philadelphia Eagles. Really going to go this time. So until next time, I am Richie, and I hope you guys have a great Monday. Thank you, Nunez. 1-0. You got to get a little company in that trophy case. I'm going to have fun with this a little bit. A little bit. But you guys did join the party. You guys finally did get one. We're going to see how it plays out. Until next time, I am Richie. Have a great rest of your day.